It had been a year since the Lighthouse War, a war that nearly turned into an apocalypse for those that fought. Stars rained from the sky, and infighting was at an all-time high. Thankfully, this conflict was eventually able to settle down, but only at the cost of a global societal disorder, an entire country on the verge of collapse, and the cost of many human lives. Both sides, consisting of Erusia, Osea, and Usea, knew that those who started this war must be held responsible for their crimes. But who was it? During the war, the Principality of Belka, most known for their treacherous nature and prideful nature, consisted of nationalists who fueled the war, giving weapons and fueling the infighting amongst the Erusians. With the war now over, and who to blame responsible, both Osea and Usea had to enact a plan to efficiently end the cause of any more possible potential wars. To do this, the best of the best were required to bring about swift, efficient, and consistent success in the skies, no matter who fit that role. I had been contacted to Usea to cover the story of a pilot who saved Usea from the brink of destruction. Supposedly making a recovery from a training accident sounded mundane on paper, but I was excited to see who that was. But I got far more. My plane had arrived in Usea the day before the meeting with this pilot was supposed to happen. The night at the hotel, however, had me anxious to know who. But I had a guess, and it wasn't exactly a hard one. The next day I arrived at the Air Force Hospital, and I still had trouble comprehending it. "You're Jeanette, right? The Ocean reporter?" In the hospital was what looked like a high-ranking official. Despite his rank, he was surprisingly young. He had a tall stature and slick, black hair. "Yes, that's me. I hope I'm in the right place?" He gave a slight smile before stretching out his hand. "Good to meet you. Your story is in the room down the right home. Follow me." He gestured, and I followed suit. Along the way he asked, "How much do you know about the Usean Continental War?" he asked. I gave him a shortened explanation of events that transpired that war. But before long, I mentioned how Usea's Air Force would make an incredible turnaround in the war, and former ISAF was victorious. But once I mentioned the Air Force, he questioned, "Do you know who?" This is a question I asked myself last night, but not wanting to risk being wrong and making myself look incompetent, I spoke. "I heard the fighter that brought back Usea had a ribbon emblem." And with that, we had arrived at the end of the hallway. The man opened the door for me, before silently gesturing to walk in. It looked like a hospital room, but weirdly, there was a doctor speaking to an older man who was standing on his own 2 feet. "Sir, the Air Force requires that you go through some training exercises before they can confirm you can fly. Not that they don't expect you to pass." "Ah, yes. These two were here to visit you. I'll leave you alone." With that, the doctor left the room. The man took a seat on the bed and looked up with a grin. "Hello. What did you two visit this old bastard for?" The officer got a chuckle out of his sarcastic attitude. "I'm glad to see you in good health. This is Albert Jeanette. I hope you don't mind, but he wished to do a story on one of Usea's best pilots, and cover you being able to make a recovery. Is that alright?" He asked with a gentle, respectful demeanor, like he was addressing a superior. "Of course. Any company that isn't the doctor would be nice. No disrespect meant. It's just boring seeing the same people for so long. Mind if you give us some privacy?" "Of course. I'll be right outside. Have the magazines down for me. Jeanette, I'll be right outside." With that, he left the room. Jeanette sat down in a chair while the man sat in his bed. "Jeanette, right? What do you want to ask?" "Well, I'll ask this. Are you the ribbon fighter? The one who brought victory in the Usean Continental War?" Jeanette asked, albeit in an awkward manner. "Straight to the point, huh? Well, I went by Mobius 1 in that war, but I'd say that's a bit exaggerated. I had allies with me that war. Wouldn't be alive without them. I hoped none of them were hurt in the last war." He looked down at his leg, his mood changing to a more depressed look. I wasn't sure why. I chose to press a bit on the matter. "What happened?"
Before the war started, I was training some rookies on piloting and dogfighting. I was still allowed to fly despite my age, so I could have gone in the war.
He put his hand over his eyes.
One day, I rushed my mechanic to fix my plane so I could train the next day. Next thing you know, my engine caught fire mid-session. I tried to land, but my landing wasn't so great, and my leg got crushed. Because of the recovery process, I wasn't allowed to be in the war until I'd recovered. By then, the world went to hell, and I was here, useless to them. Anyway, I think your time here is up, Jeanette. Sorry to get sappy on you.
With that, Jeanette stood up. No, don't be. People look at these heroes as untouchable pilots. But more than you think. I know that we're all human. He looked up to me with a smile.
I needed that. Thank you.
With that, the two bid farewell. Jeanette walked out and told the officer he would leave. As Jeanette walked down the hallway, the officer walked in.
So I've been meaning to ask, why are you here? I know the doc told me I had to rehabilitate to get back in the air.
Forgive my rudeness, but I did need to ask this. Would you be willing to do that as soon as you can? He asked.
Only if you tell me why.
OC is cooperating alongside the IUN. I'll be blunt here. The higher-ups wish to annex Belka. The man stood up with a shocked expression.
What?
Allow me to explain. Belka nationalists have stirred up too many wars. From the Uzian Uprising in 1998, to the Circum-Pacific War, to the Lighthouse War, and quite frankly, we've had enough. Not only have their wars cost the lives of millions of good people, but every event they have caused has ended in a nearly catastrophic event. And this is why we must punish those responsible, and we need the best of the best to do it. The man realized his tone was raised to a notable extent once he finished. So I'll ask you this once you recover. I ask that you assist.
I'll do it.
With no hesitation in his voice, he spoke.
I'll help. I wasn't able to help in the Lighthouse War, and people died because I was not there to help. What do you wish to do?
He asked almost nervously. The officer looked him in the eye. We're trying to get a squad together, the best of the best. Who it consists of, I will tell once if, or rather when, you pass as a capable pilot we can have flying this operation. I'll let the higher-ups know you accepted. He turned around, approaching the door, and opening before turning around with a smile. Welcome back, my BS-1. Ustio, May 2nd. With Mobius 1's confirmation as part of the operation, there was one other potential member. This was a significantly more controversial decision amongst the board. But with what they were planning, they had to be sure any possible scenario would be covered. With that, the officer flew to Ustio to meet a man that many don't even know exists. As his plane landed, he was picked up at the airfield and driven straight to a high-security prison in the mountains. There, a security guard allowed him in. The prison was surrounded by snipers on post and guards wielding assault rifles. From there, upon entering, they went to an elevator shaft that led to a second and underground floor.
I know this guy was the best of his time, but is it really worth having him out of prison? What use do they need him for?
The security guard spoke with confusion and mild anger.
Sorry, but that's confidential.
The officer brushed him off.
I can say I'm hesitant myself, but orders are orders, and I can say we might need him.
With that, the elevator arrived on the ground floor. The guard took point walking down the hall. Only the worst of humanity lived down here. Killers, rapists, those that don't deserve the light of day. And neither did this guy. Hopefully, he wouldn't have it for long. The guard walked to the last prison cell. In it, a man leaning against the wall, seemingly unfazed.
Hey, wake up! You have a guest!
The guard spoke. With it, he looked up with dim, almost lifeless eyes. What the officer saw made him flinch slightly. A grizzled mercenary who has fought many battles, with more kills under his belt than those with more service in the military. some even considering him a hero, but a false one to those who truly knew the story.
He's here. Talk as long as you wish. I doubt he'll accept, the guard snidely remarked.
And what did you come here for? The prisoner spoke with a sarcastic tone.
Well, I've got good news for you. If you miss the sky, I have an offer that you cannot refuse.
Thanks for sticking around if you did. Let us know what you think. The next video, or rather the next one of these, will be Blaze's character intro. It's quite a feat, so stick around for that. Stay frosty, and the price is right. Good day, or good night.